right, hello, welcome to my channel. Well, yes, welcome to my channel. This is my very first video ever. My name is Elizabeth, and I have to say, I have watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I really just always assumed, I don't know, that they were just like talking to me when I'm watching their videos, but this is really awkward. This is really, really weird. I'm set up in my bedroom right now, alone, and I'm having a conversation with a camera. It's very weird. But wanted to start here. I am brand new to YouTube, and I've been watching YouTube for a really long time. I'm an influencer's like best friend because I buy everything from YouTube and Instagram. So I figured, why not try it out myself, kind of see how things go. So this video is going to be 10 baby names that I love but won't be using, and I feel like that's a really random video to start with on a channel, but I've been watching a ton of them lately and I love them, and I think that it's just so interesting to hear lots of people's different ideas about baby names and all of that. And I guess the reason that I wanted to do this one first was because I have seen a ton of these videos done with like 10 unique baby names or 10 untraditional baby names, and I, to be totally honest, really hate those names. Like when I hear other people's baby names that are like so unique that you've just never heard of it before. On one hand, I totally understand it. I get that, you know, you don't want your kid to have the same name as 10 other children in their classroom. But I just have always been somebody who wanted to have more traditional names for their kids. My name is Elizabeth. That's a really traditional name. My husband's name is Daniel, also really, really traditional. My mom's name is Catherine. So I've just grown up around a lot of people with very traditional, really British names. That's really kind of been everything around me. And I am a mother of one. I have a daughter. Her name is Scarlet, another really traditional name. And my husband and I are getting ready to start trying for number 2, not for a little while, probably around like May, June, going into the summer. My daughter right now is 14 months old. She'll be 15 months old in a couple of weeks. So we really wanted to wait until she was about 1.5 years before we started trying for our next one. But I've been watching a lot of these YouTube videos. It's been getting me excited about trying for number 2, so I figured this would be a really fun thing to just kind of start things off with and see how it goes, and see if I enjoy doing YouTube videos or if I don't. I don't know. This might be the only video you ever see of me on YouTube. This might be one of, you know, 1,000 more. So I guess we'll see. But we will go ahead and get into it. The first thing I have to say is it's been a day. If you have a toddler, you know what I'm talking about. You can probably hear her in the background, but I have the baby monitor on. This is the second time that I have tried for a nap for her today. She is not having it today. We tried to go to the gym this morning. I tried to drop her off at daycare there. She wasn't having it. She was screaming bloody murder. We ended up having to leave. My husband's actually out of town this weekend, so it's just a crazy day. So I've got the baby monitor on going so that I can hear her doing all of the crazy things that she's doing in her crib. And Mama's got a cocktail because cocktails make things better when you have a toddler. Let's go ahead and get into the video. I'm going to pull up my 10 names, and I don't think I mentioned this before, but this is going to be 10 traditional names that I love but won't be using. So still unique in the sense that they haven't been used for a really long time. So unique that, well, some of them are unique in that I don't think other people will have this name, you know, in my kids' classroom. Others, people definitely will have this name, and that's probably why I'm not choosing to use them for our next child. But overall, all 10 of them, 5 boy names, 5 girl names, are all very traditional, old school. That's really come back into popularity. So love just giving other people ideas, so hopefully you get inspired and you can find a really cool name for your child. So I'm gonna start with boy names. It's funny, I find it much easier to figure out good boy names than I do good girl names. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have a girl and I loved her name so much, and I already have the next name if it's another girl. I already have that picked out as well. My husband and I both have that picked out as well. So maybe it's just difficult for me to find other names that I really like. I'm not sure, but I have found it a lot simpler to figure out baby boy names that I really love than baby girl names. So we'll just go down the list. So number 1 for traditional baby boy name is James. I just absolutely love the name James. I actually even love it for a girl, but that's a little bit less traditional. So my husband and I, when we have been thinking about our second baby, really thought that we were going to name him James if it was a boy. But since we made that decision, which was when we were pregnant with Charlotte, like 3 or 4 of our good friends have had boys and have named them James. So I love the name. I think it is just so sweet and cute and simple and traditional, but it's getting to be really, really popular right now. And the last thing that I want to have happen is, I don't know when you were born, if you were born in the 80s or the 90s or what have you, but I was born in the 80s, and I remember going through school and there were a few names that were just like 10 people would have that name in every single class that I was in. Michael was one of them, Brittany, Sarah, and I just don't want that to be the case with my children, depending on the name that I give them. Like, I don't want them to be known as James I, you know, I want them to go by their first name and to have a lot of confidence in their name. So I love James. I think we'll probably use it as a middle name. I just don't think that at this point, because there are so many other people that we know who are using the name, I just don't think it's going to be a name that we end up using. Number 2 is actually a name that we might end up using either for a middle name, well, definitely for a middle name at some point with some kid. I don't know how many we're gonna have. We'll see how 2 goes. 1 is just, who knew? But we'll see how 2 goes. But we'll definitely use it as at least a middle name, but I absolutely love it as a first name, and that name is Leo. My grandpa's name was Leo, and it's so funny because when I was growing up, I didn't really ever understand that his name was just Leo. I always thought that that was short for Leonard, but his name was just Leo. And my grandfather was the only male figure in my life, and he was just the most amazing man you will have ever met. He's not with us anymore, but he was phenomenal, and he was such a good grandfather and a good dad, and just that name has so much sentimental value to me. So I would love to name our little boy Leo if we end up having a little boy at some point, and that might definitely happen. There's a lot of family dynamics that go on in every family, and so it's difficult sometimes to name a child after another family member because family members on the other side of the family might get jealous. It's a whole ordeal, so my husband and I are still talking through that. He also loves the name Leo, so that's definitely going to be something that we use as a middle name, but just maybe not as a first name. Number 3 is Harrison. I love the name Harrison. My husband actually picked that out, that name, and I absolutely love it. It's kind of on the cusp though of not being super traditional. So it's unique, and it feels very modern, but still has those traditional vibes, and we don't really have any connection to any Harrison. It doesn't have any, you know, familial value or sentimental value. We just think it's a really cool name. So we actually might use that one as a middle name as well. So we'll see. And I'm looking down because I have my phone here, so I'm looking at all of the notes that I have. So if you're wondering why I'm not looking at the camera, that's why. Number 4 is Charles. So very, very similar to James in my mind. I love the name Charles. It's just so regal. You know, you think of Prince Charles, you think of just all of the other Charleses in romantic novels and all of those types of things. I am a huge Jane Austen fan, and so all of these very British or very French names have always just been really interesting to me, and Charles is another one of those. My husband's not as big on Charles. He definitely liked James more than he liked Charles, but we actually just had a couple of friends who had their second baby, and it was a boy, and their first daughter's name is Claire, and they named their second baby Charles, and I just think that both of those go together so well, and it's so cute. There's so many different nicknames that you can use for Charles. You can say Charlie, you can say Chuck, I mean, so many different things. But what's interesting about that is that Charlotte, one of the things that we thought of when we named Charlotte her name is using the nickname Charlie. I've just always thought that that's so cute to use more masculine nicknames for little girls, and Charlie is such a cute nickname for Charlotte. So I think it would be a little bit weird to have a daughter named Charlotte and a little boy named Charles, just a little bit too close, I guess, for comfort. But love the name, and I think it's so sweet and so just, I don't know, strong. I just love it. And then the last one, number 5, is Lincoln. So I heard this name, I think somebody that I don't even know that I follow on Instagram, we've all got those people, named their son Lincoln, and I thought it was such an interesting and unique name because it is very traditional. You think of Abraham Lincoln, you know, you think of like just really old school, but it's also a little bit more modern. So I really love the name Lincoln, and it started me down the line of thinking of other presidential last names that could be good for a little boy's first name. There's not many outside of Lincoln. Like I don't know, I guess you could name a little boy Clinton, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. Washington. Washington's kind of a cool name. I kind of like that. Maybe that's number 6 on my list. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting name. My husband does not like it at all. He does not want to name any child after a president, but I did think that Lincoln was a really sweet name, and even something like Lincoln James or Lincoln Charles would be, I think, such a cute and masculine and just pretty strong name. And I mean, Abraham Lincoln was an amazing president, so I mean, it wouldn't be terrible to be named after such a great president. So that's number 5. So moving on to the list for girl names. So let me take a break here. If you're wondering what this cocktail is, it's called a fiery mandarin, and it's got jalapeno and vodka and a lot of like sweet stuff in it. I'm obsessed with spicy cocktails. I love them. My husband and I make, you can probably see a little bit in the background, but my husband and I love making craft cocktails. It's just kind of like a fun thing for the two of us to do. So that is my drink of choice, especially while my daughter is fighting all of her naps and talking to herself in her crib. Okay, so it was, like I said, it was really difficult for me to find 5 little girl names that I loved but that I wouldn't use, because I feel like Charlotte is my hands down favorite little girl name. I just, the moment that I knew that I was pregnant with a little girl, I knew I wanted to name her Charlotte. It's just so sweet and so feminine, and that's exactly her personality. She's very sweet, very loving, very feminine as I guess a baby can be. She's crying. Hold on a second. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and pretend like that's not happening. I'm leaving that girl in her crib until she falls asleep on her own. She is very tired and very cranky, and I'm convinced that at some point she's gonna fall asleep. I just have to let her be. Anyway, it was really difficult for me to find other names for little girls that I didn't actually want to use for having another girl. And I know that a lot of people who do these kinds of videos on YouTube will say like, here's my list, and maybe I will actually use these names, but I just want to put them out there. But I don't know, it's so weird. I know exactly what name we're gonna have if we have a little girl next, and I know exactly what name we're gonna have if we have a little boy next, at least for first name. And for some reason, I don't know, I just don't want to share them. So I want to keep them to myself. And with that, it's been really difficult to find 5 other names that I know that I love, but I'm not going to be using. But the first one on the list for baby girls is the name Emma. I love the name Emma. And in fact, my husband and I have talked about using the name Emma for our second child, if it's a girl, since we had Charlotte. Like, we've been saying Emma is next up, second in command. Like, that's what we want to name our next little girl if we have one. I feel like the names Charlotte and Emma go together really, really well. But since we had Charlotte, first of all, there's been a couple people in my life, in my close circle of friends, who've named their daughters Emma. And again, same thing as with James, like I still want my children's names to be unique in that people in their classrooms don't have those same names. So, you know, I've had a few people who've named their kids Emma, and now it just seems like it's a little bit too popular of a name to name our children. But for my husband, he's had a couple of people named Emma who have come into his life on a work basis, and he's just like, I can't do it. Like, I can't have a daughter and name her Emma knowing these other people. I mean, I feel like we all feel that way. Like, if you know somebody, and it doesn't even have to be that you don't like them, it's just like you're with them in different contexts of life. It makes it really difficult for you to want to name your children after those people, even though you're not naming them after those people. So with all of that said, we've decided Emma is not going to be the name that we use for our next daughter. Maybe if we end up deciding that we want 3 kids or 4 kids or whatever, maybe that name will come back around and we'll use it at that point. But for right now, we're not going to use Emma. We just don't want to use it. Number 2 for me is Rose. I love the name Rose. She's crying again. She's walking around in her crib right now, whining. Oh my God. I'm gonna turn that down. Okay, sound off is like it's just not happening, right? Okay, so I think I was on number 2. Yeah, so second girl name is Rose. I love the name Rose. It's, again, so feminine, and I just think it's so sweet and so cute. I think it's really cute for a baby, really cute for a little girl, like a toddler, like elementary school little girl. And then I also think it's a name that really a woman can grow into as well. I think, like, that's one thing that's really important to me is this a name that I think is just cute for a baby or a toddler, or is this a name that I think someone can grow into and have a successful, you know, career with and just be taken seriously with? And I'm actually a recruiter by trade. I have a full-time job outside of being a mom, outside of doing YouTube videos. This is my first one, so yeah, hopefully I have something else that's bringing in income. So I'm a recruiter, so I deal with candidates and their resumes and their applications all day, every day, and I have seen firsthand like what it can do to someone if they have a really, really, really unique name, or just kind of like funky name that isn't really common. There's a lot of studies behind this, but it actually sets people back in the job market because of unconscious biases and all of these other things that go into play when someone is interviewing for a job. It shouldn't be the case. You know, I wish that people didn't have unconscious biases, but it's just one of those things that's human nature. Every single person has some sort of unconscious bias, so it's just something that you have to deal with. So I think about that a lot when I think about the names that I'm choosing for my own children, is like, okay, what's a name that can sound really sweet and cute for a baby and a toddler, but is also something that can be a strong enough and normal enough of a name that it's not going to hinder them in any way from pursuing a career or just pursuing whatever it is that they want to do. That may not be the way that you think. You may be totally like opposed to that thinking. You think I'm totally wrong, that's fine. That's just how I think as a recruiter. So no harm, no foul. Like, people who name their kids really unique. I get resumes for really unique names every day, and some of them I'm like, that is such a cool name. Like, I love that. And I've obviously been trained as I've worked to overcome my own unconscious biases. So it's something that I know that, you know, I don't take into account when I'm moving someone forward in an interview process. But again, just something that I keep top of mind all the time. So Rose is definitely one of those names. I think that it's really cute for a little tiny baby, for a toddler. You can call them Rosie for short. Oh my God, I just thought of that and I think that's so cute, Rosie. So cute. And I think it's also something that's really beautiful for a grown woman going into life on her own. So love the name Rose. My husband doesn't even know that that's a choice that I have for her first name, but I do love it also as a middle name, and my sister-in-law's middle name is Rose, and I adore my sister-in-law. She and I are like the exact same age. Our birthdays are a week apart, and we've gotten really close just as friends, and I just love that middle name Rose, and I think it would be so cute to name one of our kids after her. I just think it'd be really nice and such a sweet touch. So love the name Rose. Okay, number 3 is Grace. So I love the name Grace, and I think it's because when I was in high school, we had a neighbor right behind our house, and they had, how many kids did they have? I think they had 4 or 5 kids. They had a lot of kids. Bless that woman. Oh my gosh. She was, the mom was just so sweet and amazing, and she stayed home with the kids, and I just don't know how she did it, because they were the sweetest kids and the cutest kids. But I mean, hello, you have 4 kids. That's beyond a full-time job. Like, that's a lot of work that you're doing at home. So she was home with them. But anyway, that makes no sense to this story. Their youngest was a little girl, and her name is Grace, and they called her Gracie for short. Well, not really for short, but as her nickname, they called her Gracie. And oh my God, she was the prettiest little girl I have ever seen in my entire life. She had this bright blonde curly hair, like just like picturesque, huge blue eyes, these big long eyelashes. Like, she was just the prettiest little girl, and her name is Grace, and I just ever since then have thought it's been the cutest name of all time. So love, love, love the name Grace. My husband doesn't love it as much, but still I think a very traditional but also unique. Okay, all at the same time my camera decided to stop recording. Charlotte started freaking out, and just everything went to SHIT. So actually it was kind of a nice way that everything happened, because as soon as my camera stopped recording, Charlotte went crazy, so I got to go in there, and I've finally gotten her down for a nap. Oh, I'm so excited. So now hopefully we won't have any crazy noise in the background, and we can finish going through all these names. So I think I have 2 left. I think I just ended on Grace. Yes. So number 4 on my list of baby names, traditional baby names for little girls, is Scarlet. So Scarlet is very close to Charlotte, and I actually really love that name. It came up like once or twice when my husband and I were deciding on a name for Charlotte when I was still pregnant. But for some reason, I don't know, I just feel like the name Charlotte sounds a little bit softer than the name Scarlet, and so I think that's what made me a little bit more apt to use the name Charlotte, because both of them are beautiful. I love both of them, but I don't know, Charlotte just sounds a little bit softer, a little bit more, I don't know, I guess softer is the only word that I can think of. And a sh sound instead of a sk sound, that's like the only difference. But love the name Scarlet. My husband didn't love it. like really at all. Like that was not even one that he was gonna be, that was a contender for him. But I love it, and I think it's such a sweet name. And I know a couple of other people who've named their little girls Scarlet, and I think for the right child with the right sort of personality to match it, it's perfect and it's beautiful, and I absolutely love it. And then last but not least, number 5 on my list of baby girl traditional names is Catherine. And you heard this at the beginning of the video, but my mom's name is Catherine. She spells it a little uniquely. She spells it Kathrine. I actually like it with, I mean, I love my mom, so hopefully I'm not offending her in any way. But I actually like it spelled in the more traditional way of Kathrine. I just think it's such a beautiful name, and it's so feminine. And again, there are so many different nicknames that you can use for the name Catherine. And I would love, 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 love to name one of our daughters after my mom, at least using her name as a middle name. I think that would be really sweet and beautiful, and just such an amazing thing to give to my mom, because that would just be, you know, her living on for another generation after her. So I love the name. I think it's a really beautiful first name, a really beautiful middle name. I just absolutely love it. But to what I was saying before, there's so many family dynamics in any family when you have, you know, 2 people coming together. They both have their sides of the family, and so there can be a lot of politics behind choosing whether or not you're going to name your children after someone in the family, because then there becomes just a little bit of a weird, I don't know, situation if you're naming them after one person but then somebody else gets jealous or something like that. It just ends up being not as happy of a thing as it should be. Naming your kids should be a really happy, really beautiful, like sentimental thing in general, and so I wouldn't ever want that to be clouded by family politics and family dynamics. So I love my mom. I would absolutely love to name one of our children after her, because she was a single mom growing up. It was just me and her, and I owe like everything of who I am to my mom, and so it would be so cool to be able to name another little girl after her and have her carry on that tradition of a very strong and independent woman. So we'll see if that can happen, and if, you know, we decide that we can at least use that as a middle name or something like that. But I absolutely love the name. So that's it. My 10 traditional baby names that I love but won't necessarily be using, at least as first names. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you got a little bit of inspiration out of it. There's so many unique name videos out there that I really wanted to do one that I hadn't ever found, of just more traditional names and more old school names that I really, really love. So again, hopefully this gave you a little bit of inspiration, and if you are pregnant or if you're planning on getting pregnant soon, congratulations, good luck. I don't know what I would love any more in the world than being a mom. Being a mom has been just the best, most amazing experience ever. And even the challenging days like today, where like mama just needs a cocktail to get through the rest of the afternoon, even on days like today, when I see her sweet little face and she just wants to give me a snuggle and just, oh God, it's just the most amazing thing. So if you have kids, you already know what I'm talking about. If you're getting ready to have kids, or if you want kids in the future, I wish you nothing but the best. It's the most amazing experience in the entire world, regardless of how you get your child. If you're adopting, if you're using a surrogate, if you're doing IVF, if it's all natural, all of those things are beautiful. So good luck, and I hope you found something good that you would you know, like to use in terms of a name. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to see you back here for the second video that I do ever. So hopefully I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.